All right, for 2026, wanted to talk a little Bitcoin here and go over some of the other stuff going on out there. Um, so basically, I think I did a video last week and I talked about coming up here into this area and, you know, tagging this top trend line up here around 77,000. Possibly getting up to 78,000, and we did get up there, and we did manage to pierce through a little bit and then sell off the last couple days. I think this candle that we got there was on Friday. I think I talked about either last Wednesday or Thursday that we would see that move up, and we did. I actually longed a few things and caught some nice profit once we got up to the trend line, and as I saw Bitcoin coming up in this area, I took profit on my other trades. So I do like to see that we did touch this trend line. We now have 1, 2, 3 in here with a little bit of a wick, and then we have a wick here, and then we have a touch here on the next candle. So I do like that we have 4 touches on top now. This is a pretty confirmed, trend line. This is, pretty much for sure a rising wedge that's going to lead to, a bearish pattern down the road. Unless, they can somehow save it here, get it back up, get a nice setup and squeeze higher. But the odds on play is that we will probably chop around in here and then roll over and dump in the coming days and weeks. I was kind of thinking that maybe back here, this would be it. We would start to set up to sell, and then they saved it here, even gave it another shot to sell. Couldn't do it, and, they've been up, 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 not like anything vicious to the upside. It's been kind of like chopping up, like just can't quite get a big move up, like this was a big move down, consistently. This has been kind of just choppy to the upside. It's a very weak move. When we were down at, what was that, 65,000 down here, getting up to 78,000. It's just been a grind higher, and you've been getting up off of so many red candles. Like this was the candle down here that initially started it. You're up off of a red. Here again, you're up off of a red candle again. Here's a red candle you get up off of. So this has just been a slow grind to get up to this trend line. Now we hit it, we tagged it, and look, we found resistance. I mean, it's crazy how that works, but I do like that we got up here and we did touch this area, and I did add to some shorts once we started getting up here, which is not something you should do. You should never just buy or sell a trend line. But I know that this is a huge area, and I also know that there's a trend line where if I zoom out, that we can draw from up here, so right about there to here. So we connect up here to the top. This was the Bitcoin top up here back in October. This was a swing we hit in January when we were pumping out of the blue right to start the new year. We had a pump and then sell off, and then look where we got to. If I zoom in, we got right to it. I mean, this was a huge area. You got your neckline trend line that comes across here, and what I'll do is I'll bolden that a little bit. Very important level right here. You had this trend line coming down for many weeks, going back up back to October. So 6 months of working down, so this is October 6th and we're on April 20th. So this is over 6 months right here. And we come up, we test that trend line right there. It's also the upper trend line on a rising wedge. So you got 3 major trend lines all intersecting right in here. And that's why you got up to it, you tagged it, you wicked through it just a little bit. And then when we started to sell down, that's when I started buying some short, because I know this is a huge area. I got my stop up here, so if they want to come back up and stop me out, They can, and I bet if they do, if they come back up and take out that stop, we could see a big squeeze up, maybe up to this level up here, back to 100K, because I bet a lot of people have shorts right in this area. Now we are selling down off of a green candle, which, like I talked about, if you are going to sell down off a green candle, you're going to have to set up better. So you can't just really dump here. You're going to need to like chop around for a while, get an upper wick on a red candle, red reversal, and then dump. So I think what could happen here is we could chop around maybe a few days, maybe test a trend line, maybe even come up close back to the neckline trend line without breaking the high. Get a red reversal somewhere here in the next week, and then start to come down to our bottom trend line. Maybe set up again and then dump. Probably in May. I'm thinking May is going to be our bloodbath month where, we could just see a big dump. Maybe that's when we reach our bottom. I talked about that 50 to 55K, maybe down to 43 if it gets really nasty. I still expect us to come down to 55K Bitcoin at the very least. I mean 56K probably at the very, very least, but I'm expecting it. What was our measured move? That I've shown before. This inverse cup and handle. You take the top point there. Actually, let's do this. Let's try this first, and let's get it back to 1x. Let's do this. Comes through here, right there. Yep, perfect. Actually, let's just a tad bit there. Okay, good. And then the top of this point to here. And then we broke out right here. So what does that get us to? So on this pairing of Bitcoin, that's 55K right there. So we still have a little bit of ways to come down to get to that. And I still think we'll go lower than that. If we just take this measured area from here to here, and we draw it from where we break out, there's 48K. And I know a lot of CT, which is crypto Twitter, insiders, whatever, probably a bunch of losers, but they have their target at 48K. So it'll be interesting to see if we even make it there. But if we look at this last swing from our last little rising wedge down to this rising wedge, if we connect it, our measured move does take us to 48K. And I think there is, if we go back, let's just zoom out a little bit. Let's see here. I don't think we can get anything. So the data on this only goes back to 2020. I think if we had more data, maybe on another Bitcoin pairing, we could see that there's another swing that comes up. I think it's right around in between 37 and 43K Bitcoin. So that's another area I'm watching. There's not a measured move for it, but it's just something to keep in mind. I will start taking profit on my shorts around 55K, 56K. I'll start averaging out and also maybe start to look long, just depending on where other cryptos get to. But, so I've pretty much got this, and what I can do here is I can put a little, trend line area right here. Oops, so undo that. Right here. So I can basically put a little, and there's other ways of doing this. I just kind of drew that, but we can kind of see the general area when this starts to break down, where I can see us bouncing, finding support down here. This is still a very bearish pattern in here, and this is a 3-day chart. It's been doing nothing but chopping upward. It's very weak. Even when it gets up a little bit, this is very weak moves. We're not seeing anything, vicious up to the upside like this. This is pretty vertical movements, and it just keeps going and going. This is like very slow chop up, which is very weak. You know, this isn't very impressive to me. Um, so, I mean, nothing like this vertical, you know, vertical over here. Um, you know, even this vertical moves. This is just crap chop. This is a rising wedge. It's still bearish. Um, until we can, you know, somehow if it sets up in here and blasts through, like this is still bearish to me. So the odds are we're going to go lower. I'm just stating the odds and the history of these setups. I mean, you can go back and look at them. You know, if we look at the other Bitcoin pair I have, you know, I can show this real quick. Unless I deleted it. I hope I didn't. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so look at this. I mean, you know, here's a rising wedge back here. You know, kind of very choppy rise and then dump, you know. Here's a rising wedge in here, choppy to the upside, kind of like what's going on right now, and then it dumps. Here's, you know, here's a bullish kind of setup, a falling wedge. So this is a rising wedge, right? When you get a rising wedge, you usually dump from it. Here's a falling wedge, so you come down and you dump, and then you pump out of it. This is kind of like a neutral pennant where it could go either way, but how you kind of look at these where it's like, you know, you have an upper trend line that's sloping down and a bottom trend line that's sloping up. If your original move is down, usually that's where the trend goes. So if it coils in here, usually your next move is down. You just follow whatever the previous big move was. So we had a rising wedge in here, we dump, then we chop around in this little pennant right here. And odds are when you chop around in the pennant, you dump down after your initial move was down. Now let's say that the move was up here and then you coiled in the pennant, then the move would be up more times than not. Here's some other examples. So here you drop, but you form kind of a falling wedge. And falling wedges usually end up bullish, and then you pump out of it. Here's a kind of a falling wedge right here, and then you pump out of it. So your move is up, then you pull back a little bit in the falling wedge, and then you go. And here's other examples of it. So, yep. I mean, that's all good in there. I mean, this was nice. I mean, these were great days to trade. I mean, look at the moves you get, the setups. You know, you get so many setups. It just was so nice. This was back in 2020. Like, 2020 was a great year to trade. Like, wow. I mean, just wow. All the setups you get, just unbelievable. Look at this setup. You know, your move is down, and then right at the apex it dumps. That's awesome how that sets up. I mean, look how coiled it gets in here. How many touches. So, and then you get your little candle right here, right around the apex of this. You get, what is that? Yep, hanging man candle. You do drop off a green, but it's a reversal green, and everything's pretty tight in here. This would be a good play to short. Now that you're at the apex, you get this red hanging man, moving averages rolling down. Vicious move down. Man, I mean, put some leverage on that, and I mean, just these candles down to the downside. You go from, this was back when Bitcoin was at 6,400, you know, down to 3. I mean, this is a 50% move, right? Right around a 50% move. You start shorting up here. Yep, 50% right there. 50.72% on that move downward. Just incredible. So, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, these patterns on Bitcoin just always play out right. So, I mean, I don't really even see in this instance where it doesn't really, you know, play right. You know, it's so rare. So odds are, you know, we're looking at, this is where we are right now. Rising wedge, dump, rising wedge. We should see the dump. I mean, if history plays out like it's been, and this is, this is true with anything you trade, but I just somewhere in here we should start to roll over in the next, few days to weeks or whatever. They've been drawing it out. I thought, maybe this wouldn't be as big of a rising wedge, back in March, and I thought we had a chance to go, but, they want to draw this out a little bit longer. So, and that's okay. We're still in the pattern. It's just not much is happening. I can't, force the market to move one way or the other. It just wants to chop for longer. It's hard to trade, but what I'm really hoping for is that that this is going to be the last time that we touch that upper trend line. If I go back to it and show it one more time, let's zoom this over. Let's do this so I can see. Where's Bitcoin? There it is. So this is a clear chart. That's a mess. This should be clear right here. So yeah. I'm hoping that this is the last time we come up here and test this area for a while before rolling over and dumping down. That's just my hope. I've already added to some shorts, small size, looking to see what I can capture if it does want to roll over. If not, I've got my stop up here. If it comes out and stops me out, whatever. It's worth the swing because of how huge of an area this is. I wish this was a red inverse candle, but they got to make it tricky. So I will say though that the moving averages are rolling up, so there is a bit of concern. But here's the daily. We closed actually below the moving averages yesterday. So I don't know if they're going to hold it up here or chop it around and roll it. So something's going to happen this week where they either set up to send it, which I think is the least likely thing. But if they do set it up, I will play it and I will look for a long. I will get out of my shorts, but I still think they can set up here and then maybe start to dump it in the next week or two. This is an important trend line coming down. So I don't know if they're going to be able to pierce through this trend line and get up or not, and then break through that neckline. That very important trend line that goes back to that cup and handle that comes across right here that I have bold. So we'll see. This is more of like, you fall through, then you chop up and you back test right now. You back test this cup and handle neckline trend line, which we did, in this rising wedge. Now it should be time where we should roll over and dump here soon. That's just kind of what I'm thinking. It's speculative, but I'm already adding to some short positions. Why not? So I think I'm short Bitcoin and maybe one or two other things, but so far we have a green day today. So I did add on this pump. We did get the 3-week close yesterday along with our weekly close, and I want to show the 3-week close because it is interesting. We did end up getting a green, but it broke the high of the previous 3-week. So on this pairing, Bitcoin actually got a red inverse. And but look where we're at also on the 3-week. This is also interesting. Let's turn off the trend lines. So here's the moving averages. Look where we're at. So we dump down, we chop up into the moving averages just like textbook. We wick up, we barely don't touch the 8, but it's just so close, like as close as it gets. Now we got a new 3-week opening up. We're getting a pump off this green. Makes you wonder if we could come back up around the same area of this wick, maybe get like a tweezer top, touch the 8 EMA, and then dump down, and maybe we close down here right around 65K in the next 3 weeks, the next 20 days, 8 hours, close somewhere down here, have a red inverse, And if that's the case, oh boy, yeah, you bet we're gonna dump there. I mean, this looks like this is, we got this other candle that pulled the moving averages down even closer. So, I mean, and I like how they're already opening, starting to pump to get that upper wick, which I liked. Instead of yesterday, if they would have just started dumping, I would have liked to see a little bit of an upper wick to start this week, and we're starting to get that already. And, we're dead flat on the bottom of the previous 3-week and the 3-week before that. And that's the way it is on so many cryptos. I want to show Ethereum, because Ethereum, very popular. Check this out. On Ethereum, here are the moving averages that have just rolled over the 20. So what are you telling me? You telling me they're just going to roll it back up over the 20 after you just dumped through them? Check this out. We're dead flat on the new 3-week, dead flat on the previous 3-week, and dead flat on the 3-week before that. There is no lower wick here. You're telling me we're just going to get up dead flat on 3 consecutive candles up off of, a red candle? Really? I doubt it. I mean, I may even start shorting Ethereum if it comes up. I've got an alert set. 2400. If we start seeing 24, 2500 ETH, 2600, I'm going to start adding to my shorts because it's just so rare that you ever pump dead flat without ever getting some sort of lower wick or coming back, taking out people who have stop losses down at the bottom of these candles. I mean, this is not a bottoming setup. This is a very bearish, rising, price action and it's just the moving averages are catching up. So the price action's coming up and meeting with the moving averages before it rolls down. So I think Ethereum is really bearish. I mean, it does have a green 3-week it's up off of, but like I said, it's dead flat on the bottom. That's a problem, and it's up off of red. The 2-week, we got up off this red reversal, dead flat. Now we're dead flat on the new 2-week. We have the tiniest little lower wick, but you can tell they started to get up towards the green, the 10 SMA, and now it's started to sell down a little bit. This closes in 6 days, 8 hours. I can almost bet you that this is going to end up turning red before this Sunday's close, and we get a red reversal right here. And I will tell you that in the next 2 weeks after this close, if we do get this red reversal, we are going to dump over that 2-week span. It's just, this is getting super tight in here. The 3-week and the 2-week on Ethereum, if you're going to get up, you got to get up now, like this week, to get the 8 above the 10. You got to do it this week, and if you don't get up this week, I think it's over. I think we are going to see that dump because I just don't know how you can keep pushing it out any longer, unless of course you get like a, maybe it closes something like this. Maybe the body is smaller, but it is a green. Then the next 2-week candle, you get like a drop, pop, and come up and then go. But this is not something you just continue getting up off of. These candles are ugly. It just doesn't look right at all. So I'm just very confident we are going to come down. Solana actually has a more bullish looking 2-week candle. It's kind of neutral, but it is green, has a lower low, but we're dead flat on this 2-week candle. And it's got some room with the moving averages up here ways where if it could come up. Let's look at the 3-week. We did get, actually a pretty positive looking 3-week and some room to come up for this 3-week. We did get a lower low than that candle. So Solana looks a lot better than Ethereum and Bitcoin. XRP, let's look here. So we did get a lower low on this 3-week. It's not like the most bullish looking, but it is a green and has a lower low. Here's the moving averages. There is some room to play if it does want to come up. Maybe 158, 160. Maybe it touches the 10 at 168. I don't know. It's possible it could come up there. Let's look at the This is so that's the 3-week candle. Let's look at the 2-week. It's got a red 2-week. You know, this is a bearish candle right here. This is kind of like a continuation, but we already broke the high on it, dead flat on the bottom. So this is all kind of goofy and weird. But, you know, we're up here at the 8 right now. Like our upper wick came up. And so you know, we're not getting through it. We're not twisting the moving averages, rolling them back up. Now on the weekly we are. Here's the 8 crossing the 10. But, you know, we're up off of some red candles. That doesn't look right. We've been chopping for a while. I mean, this is just chop. I mean, even though the 8's twisting above the 10, all it takes is, you know, wick up and then a wick, and then you pull back down, and it'll pull the 8 back over the 10, and still bearish. So we did get a green week, but we're dead flat on the bottom, up off of red. So this just doesn't look right. It doesn't look that bullish to me. I'll show one that I was looking at that I'm also short with a little bit of size if I can find it. It's VET. Where's VET? There's VET. Okay, so VET is one. It did get a green weekly. I want to show the 2 and 3 week. So 2 week did get a green, but it's dead flat off the bottom, up off a red. May have been the 3 week. It's like, was it VET? Maybe it wasn't VET I shorted. Shorted something. Maybe it was something else. Maybe that wasn't it. Anyway, 1,000 rats. This is another crypto. Very bearish. I mean, look at this. Red. Just looks very bearish. Moving averages rolling over. Here's a nice red inverse. Down off a green though. Weekly. That's bearish. Red inverse. Here's the moving averages rolling over. Come up a little bit. You know, get the upper wick and then dump. You know, could see it this week. I know I had something short and I don't know where it is. But it's okay. I was long cast the other day, caught a nice long on it. I think it was back here. Yep. So I played this hammer, moving averages rolling up, played this hammer, and caught this move up. That was nice. And like I said many times, anytime the 8 and the 10 start to cross the 20 and you get a setup candle, put your stop down there. You know, once this entry gets broken, then you just follow it up, make money. Let's see, we were long, talked about the meme coins, you know, caught some nice move on them and kind of sold towards the top, which makes me happy. So, you know, Jasmine was one I played. It was a little bit slow to get up. I mean, here's that hammer down here, right here that I played. Everything's really tight in here. The moving averages 8 and 10. Here they come, start to cross. Then we get our green hammer and then nice move up. And it even comes back in a little bit and then gets up. Gets another day and then gets up and then red reversal. I'm out of the trade. Take profit, you know. Probably from where I got in to where I got out, you know. Once I saw it come up here and then start to dump down, I probably got out there. I mean, that's an 8% move, so 8% on a trade is nothing to cry about. I mean, same with SHIB. You know, it made a nice move, had a nice hammer. Wasn't even really a hammer, but everything was tight in here. I played this candle, got up, even came back in, got up again. Little profit. Pepe had potential. Played this candle, rolling up, caught some profit. Just everything struggled to get going. There was a chance we could have saw a huge squeeze, you know, this last week, but you know, we were at such a big level, you know. Let's look at total 3. Total 3, right? Let's zoom in. Let's get our trend lines on. Yep, so here's kind of the level we're at, you know. There's the trend line coming down here. I thought with altcoins, you know, we could have seen a pump up to this trend line, which connects these swings back here. This swing, this swing, this swing. And, you know, maybe there still is a chance we do come up here. I just don't think Bitcoin will be as strong as alts if that is the case. I think Bitcoin dominance needs to cool off here if that is going to be the case, because um, you know, I think that there is a chance we could come up here, but you know, we got to see it. We got rejected here at this trend line that comes across, and you know, we've broken out. We really have on alts. So this is all of altcoins. You know, here's our, you know, the high of October 6th when we were at our peak. You know, we come down, touch some swings in here, and then we touch a swing right here, and then we actually came out. So we're, you know, we came out of this pattern, and this actually is a bullish pattern. So that's why I put on longs last week. Like, you know, we're kind of in a falling wedge here. And, you know, once we started to come out, I started longing some stuff, but, you know, we just couldn't keep going. We couldn't make a move in alts. We couldn't get Bitcoin dominance to drop for once. You know, like this move only lasted like 3 days. It was stupid, you know. Right in here, we start getting our signal bars. They put in this red, you know, and then they put in a green, even bigger candle, which is harder to trade. And then they put in a red. They just made it really difficult in here. We couldn't get a nice setup and then a big move up. So they just chopped it along here. I mean, they finally gave us this candle with a lower low that I can zoom in on. You know, this candle right here. Delete that trend line, whatever that is. So this had a lower low. It's not the most bullish candle. It wasn't a hammer. It didn't close up high, but it did have a lower low and is a green. Moving averages are rolling up, and this is when we caught some move to the upside. I knew there was a trend line up here that we'd come up to, so. But, you know, just still weak. You know, alts are weak. Bitcoin's weak. It's all weak. You know, even these moves up are just weak moves. Like, there's nothing vertical here. Just crap. So I don't know if we're going to come up and touch this trend line up at, you know, what is it, 700, if we roll up somewhere in here, there's 788 billion on total 3 crypto total market cap. So I don't know, maybe this is it. Maybe right here at 754, maybe we chop around, come down here to this trend line, set up and dump. I don't know. That's all I got really. I mean, let's look at the weeklies on total 3 to get a clearer picture. So we do have a green, it looks like, on the 3 week, but we are up off of reds. But it's not the worst because we do have a new lower low to the previous green weekly. I mean, it's not super bearish. Let's turn the trend lines off. And then, why is our 8 not showing? Where the heck did our 8 EMA go? Indicators. EMA. Moving average. Where did our EMA go? What is this? Huh. I don't know. Sometimes TradingView gets kind of buggy, but I'll figure it out later. But the 8 EMA is somewhere right in here. So, you know, it is a green, but we're gonna have to fight the moving averages to get above them, and we don't have that much space up here. Try and refresh this real quick, see if it pops up. Give me 1 sec. Computer is so slow. So slow. It's an older computer. My new computer's upstairs, but anyway, still doesn't want to show it. So I don't know what the deal is with that. It's just buggy right now. But yeah, I mean the ADMA is going to be right in here, and I mean we're pretty much right there. Like I just don't know. They're going to have to really get it up, a huge pump, like in the next day or two, or sometime this week. Just like out of nowhere to get these moving averages to roll back up. I just don't think they're going to do it. Our pattern is still bearish. Oops, I did not mean to delete that. Shoot. Week 2, add. Okay, got it back. There we go. So 2 week, here's a green, but it's up off a red candle. You know, here's a red back here. Got a green up off of the red. Dead flat. Like we're dead flat. Like I know there's a little bit of wick, but that's not like a lot of wick down there. And we took out the stops that were up here already. We already got our wick to take out these stops. You know, now I think we can come back down and get a red reversal on the 2 week in 6 days, 8 hours. And then after that, I think we should dump. I really do. I mean, there's so many stops down there that need to be taken out. Maybe come up, get an equal high as this candle, or maybe slightly break it, then get a red reversal, then come back down. But the weekly is already starting to roll up, so I think there could be a move this week where we either get up in a huge way or we drop down in a huge way, because the weekly's starting to shift up and the 2 week still looks bearish, so we're stuck in between those time frames. I mean, this whole move was up off of a red inverse hammer, you know. So yeah, they're going to squeeze out the people that had their stops at the top of this candle. They even took out the top of this candle, so I think that's why you saw a squeeze up. But if we get a red inverse up here, then, you know, I think we're good to come down. I mean, these last, look how many candles just are like dead flat since March. This candle on the weekly, pretty flat, very flat there, not much lower wick there. You get a little bit here. You know, nothing really here. You get a wick there, but you got like nothing here, and you got nothing on this week. Like there's just a lot of these candles, you know, like every Monday it seems for the past month and a half has been like, you know, open pump on Monday. Like Monday's been the bullish day to trade for a while because we just get up and then we stay up the rest of the week and we don't really get anything to the downside. So I don't know. And then here's the 20 SMA on the weekly Bitcoin. I mean, we're right there. And usually this holds during bear markets. Like you usually don't come up and start breaking it and piercing it. Maybe a little wick like right here. Maybe you could get even a little more of a little wick above. But the 20 usually acts as, you know, resistance during a bear market. You know, it has since back up here in October for 6 months. So, and here we are, we're right up in it. So, I don't know. I'm still leaning bearish. I mean, I'm pretty confident in that. I mean, we got to see it, you know. Maybe we chop around still for longer. Who knows? I mean, I'm getting sick of the chop, but, you know, I get it. They're waiting for those 2 and 3 and monthly, weekly moving averages to catch up, and we're still in that rising wedge pattern. But I don't know. I think we're getting closer and closer to bigger moves down the line, you know, more sustained moves to the downside, or who knows, maybe a bigger move to the upside. I mean, something's gonna give sooner or later, and we'll just try and catch it when we get that setup and we get a nice daily to trade or something, and that's what we'll be looking for. But that's all I really have for now. We get the 2 week close this week, and I think that 2 week will be a big tell of what's going to happen, if we're going to get up or if we're going to drop. Like, I think the next 6 days to get that candle are going to be very important to give the direction of, you know, what's going to happen in May. So, because that's the other thing, we get that 2 week candle close in 6 days, and that'll be on what, April 26th, and then we'll have only a few more days left of April, and we're going to get the monthly close. So, and if we get the monthly close, which we have 10 days, 8 hours on, I mean, we got a nice green hammer-ish candle on Bitcoin. But if that 2 week is red, we're probably going to be down a little bit. And then in those last few days, maybe this candle comes down and ends up going red. And then I'll really be confident that we're going to drop. But, you know, right now the monthly is a pretty solid green candle. It's got still a ton of time, 10 days, 8 hours. I just think that, you know, we could be pushing it with the monthlies here. Here's total. I wish I could see my 8. The 8's probably right around here. I don't know why it's not showing up right now, but it's not like we've come up all the way to the 8 on total. You know, there's still a little bit of room on the monthly. And then, you know, this isn't the worst thing ever. It's got total 3 actually has a lower low, I think. Yeah, it does. So if this candle gets a green hammer, inside hammer, this could actually look good in 10 days, 8 hours. If it can hold, I just don't think it will. I think we're going to come down before 10 days, 8 hours. So it's got a lower low on the monthly. Yes, it is up off of a red. We get a green inverse. Then we drop pop. So, you know, I just would like to see if we are truly bottom and going to get up and go on a nice run to the upside. I would have liked us to see at least another attempt down to the low of this previous candle. You know, basically February's low, I would like us to come down and see that area to kind of get like a 1-2 touch and then up, but we haven't done that yet, so that's why I still think we're bearish and we still have lower to go, and why I'm looking short. But yeah, that's all I got. You know, still bearish in the longer term, but the shorter term is just harder to tell. You know, the news changes every day. You know, it's been a choppy setup, but you know, we're still within the patterns like I've talked about, and you know, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep making videos, and we'll go over it when it happens. All right, that's all I got.